Oh goodness, my alarm for Tuesday for Quoops has gone off.
That's nonsense. It's still only Saturday.
Right, it's the idea that the alarm that tells me it's time for Quoops would go off now is ridiculous. Something must be wrong with my phone.
Yeah, right?
It's definitely only Saturday. Oh, Jane.
What?
I've checked my calendar.
Uh-huh?
It's Tuesday.
Oh, I am very late for work yesterday.
Yeah.
And this morning.
Yeah. But Hyrule is considerably safer than it was 3 days ago.
Okay, well, we better get recording then.
Fine, I'll put the Switch down for a minute.
Ish. I'll
Turn the sound off at least.
fire up the jingle. Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet Dale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast where two queer trans women, that's us, we're wifey types, we talk about the media we've consumed in the week and do silly voices and skits and just try and have a bit of a catch-up and a bit of a giggle.
I thought we were changing the name of the podcast to Quiz of the Kingdom.
Quiz of the Kingdom! Well, I mean, I was gonna correct that, but we are living in, unfortunately, a kingdom right now.
Yeah.
And, yeah, you know, the title tracks. So yeah, should we just get into what we've played this week?
Because it's like one thing.
I played a second thing.
I also kind of played a second thing, but I did talk about it last week.
Yeah, so we may have spent like 3 days solid plus any time outside of that we didn't have other work to be doing. Playing Zelda.
Yep.
We've been playing that Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, yes.
How are you getting on with it?
I am enjoying it. I've done like 50-something shrines so far.
Yeah.
I've done some other big things that I won't sort of mention
a couple
yet.
of major objectives.
Yeah, we'll give it a couple of weeks before we talk about anything
Yeah.
sort of properly spoilery, but I think we can reasonably talk about...
I think we can talk about basic game mechanics,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of the things that might have seemed like spoilers to talk about, like when the game was just coming out, at this point are like, yeah, no, you're gonna know those mechanics exist within, like, the opening of the game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, if we're going to just talk about the opening of the game, can we talk about that music?
Oh my goodness, yeah. Not talking plot, but the opening of Tears of the Kingdom has such good dramatic tension building in its soundtrack.
It's beautiful ambience. I would be curious to know how it was created.
Yeah.
I am guessing it's some sort of Fmod style. The further you proceed, more elements are added. And
yeah, it does a great job of being very subtle and introducing, like, introducing more and more unsettling elements, including, like, things that sound like they're going backwards and, like, going into keys that don't sound quite right.
Yeah, like weird vocal chops that seem to be playing backwards, or at least having that preverb thing.
Yeah.
It's quite uncanny.
That whole intro sequence, again, spoiler-free, does a great job of tone setting.
Yes.
And, like, dropping you in media res into a narrative and, like, giving you a lot very quickly.
Yes.
It's a real good opener.
Oh, yeah. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then it settles down a little bit for a while, and I think... I mean, you've started this game 3 times now.
Yeah, this is my 3rd time starting the game, and this is the one I'm sticking with.
So, I think it's not unreasonable to say that the game wants you to follow some basic stuff at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think we both agree that it is wise for a new player to, at the very least, follow the plot a little bit longer.
Yeah, I would say, like, on that starting area, don't try and be too clever, just kind of go the way that it seems to be directing you a little. And when you get off the main starting area, just stick with the main plot just until you got the paraglider. Like, just stick with the main plot until then before you go running off too much.
Because you, like us, will be leaping off of tall things going, oh yes, my shins have shot through my forehead.
But I mean, even more than that, like, I think it's a good grounding of some elements and setting up some beats before you go too wild.
Yeah. And also it gives you an opportunity to understand a bit more about the world, meet some of the important characters that if you're going to get into any of the plot stuff, you're going to be visiting a few times.
Yeah.
And it's also going to set you up for go find other missions. Like, here is some directed stuff.
Yeah.
And you will know what is a main mission, what is a side adventure, what is a side objective, and what is a shrine
quest.
objective.
Yeah, I do like how it's broken the different kinds of quests down now. Having side adventures be a specifically listed thing where you have the expectation of this is probably, if not like a large quest with a big reward, at the very least going to be like, it's going to be a quest that's going to lead to lots of small side quests as part of completing it. It gives you like a scope expectation before you commit to a thing.
And some of those side adventures are bigger than others. Some of them are, here's a slightly tougher than usual in-the-world puzzle.
Yeah.
And some of them are, come here and do we're going to introduce you to a concept, and we're going to give you like maybe 5 more separate side adventures. Each one of those to be completed will grant you a reward, but also you're working towards like a main thing here as well.
I think a good spoiler-free example of like the scope of a side adventure is there's one of the towns you can go to where you get a side adventure where someone's like, hey, I want some help with this thing. And along the way, you end up having, like, you are pointed towards interacting with set NPCs who have their own side quests, and all of them end up coming together to tell, like, a large story about the interconnected things going on in that town. And you have to solve everyone's quests to understand enough to solve the big quest.
Yes.
And I think those are, like, one of the big improvements on this compared to Breath of the Wild is having more of those, like, little meaty multi-stage things to do.
Yeah, and more of it feeling connected as opposed to going, yeah, child wanted you to do a thing, here's 20 rupees.
Yeah. And
or somebody wanted you to go to that one tree up on a hill.
And feeling like the world has been changed by you having done the thing.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, like feeling like you interacted with people properly.
Yeah. And I definitely am guilty of not really interacting with people in Breath of the Wild unless they immediately came with a red circle.
Yes.
Which I think may have lessened things. Now it's like, okay, if someone's name pops up when I get close to them, it's like, okay, I have interacted with you.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to interact with everyone at least once.
Yeah.
Which antisocial me is quite impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it's dense. It's so dense.
It is such
It's easy to go on a tangent for hours and go, I'm kind of struggling with stuff. It's like, yeah, well, just try and go back to some of the basic shit and maybe you will automatically find your way to better stuff. Like, I went probably my first 2.5 days of play before getting any opportunity to upgrade any of my armour. So every piece of armour I had was like 3 on the legs, 3 on the body, 2 on the head, because that is the base stats for every bit of pretty much every bit of armour. I don't know if the ancient armor's going to come back. I don't know if is it the knight's armor?
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure that had higher base stats than most of the other things you get. Haven't encountered those yet, so everything's been kind of like, I do a special thing, but I do have the bog standard stats. It's like, okay.
And things hit hard when you've got the bog standard stuff in this.
Yes.
It behooves you to take some time to go looking for, like, okay, how do I upgrade my armor, stuff like that.
And I think also with this, more than Breath of the Wild, I've been getting involved with, like, using the pins on the map.
Yes.
Like, if I can't see a way at that time to get a Korok to their friend, it's like, okay, you've got a little leaf.
Yes.
I am tagging all of the, that one big particular enemy. There are several of around the map.
Yeah.
Like, I know I am not ready for you yet, but I am going to do that. Like, there's one where we were talking about it earlier, because I was looking up a definition of something on the internet. It's like, this doesn't help me understand where I'm supposed to be going.
Yeah.
Because I think the hint was something along the lines of, in the subtropical areas, like, okay, well, I know what tropical is.
Yeah.
What is subtropical? And I went on online and looked out. I was like, okay, that doesn't really help.
Just below the equator is not a helpful descriptor.
Just above or below the equator. Yeah. It's like, it's about this temperature. It's like, well, maybe.
Yeah. I am consistently impressed with how much stuff there is just hiding in this game, just out of sight.
Yeah.
Like, there was a whole conversation we had the other day about the islands in the sky.
Yes.
Where, like, I'd been struggling to find a particular resource.
Yes.
And you'd sort of had a realization of, like, some of these islands maybe have, like, lower levels to them, and maybe that's a thing. And, like, suddenly going, oh yeah, that's a thing, and I've just not noticed it.
Yeah.
And, like,
I'm now spending a lot more time on every single island, sort of tiptoeing around the very edge, peering off the side.
yeah. Or it's things like, I'll be down in the some of the darker sections of this game. Like, I think we can say there's an underground section, and
As, pretty much as soon as you hit the ground, you're presented with.
yeah. I'd been going around the underground, just like going from point of interest to point of interest, like the obvious things, and I went like a little bit off the beaten track, just going, I wonder what's over here, where there's like nothing drawing my attention, and there was a boss fight. I just stumbled on a boss fight out of completely random in the dark.
I'm not sure I want to do that down there.
No, this is why, like, for now, I'm like, okay, stick to, I see an orange glowing thing, walk toward that. Don't go in a random direction into the dark.
I think, weirdly, with that stuff, the way it was presented right at the beginning of the game made me just go, oh, that's like late game stuff, I won't touch it. Whereas you went like, yeah, I'm fucking gonna go for it.
I don't know whether you... So, you know that first, like, major area, that first, like, town area you get to? There is like, right at the start of the game, there's an NPC who goes, hey, we should go explore underground.
Yeah, I've done that mission now.
Yeah, and because they suggested it right at the start, I was like, oh, maybe it's not as scary as I thought it was, if, like, already an NPC's, like, gone down there and I'm supposed to go find him.
I think it was partly a problem of, I'd done some stuff with you, so it was like, okay, I'll go and I'll get the paraglider, and then I'll sort of have a bit of wander, and I'll, do the traditional open world Zelda thing of, I'm going to stand on a tall thing, or get up as high as I can, and I'm going to tag a bunch of shrines, and I'm going to go and do all those shrines. And the problem with being really high up is it's quite difficult to judge scale, so very often I was getting dragged really far off one side of the map and going and doing a thing.
Yeah.
And, like, I'd done, like, 30-some shrines, because most of those are self-contained puzzles, and it's about lateral thinking, or, like, building something in a certain way, or using a certain resource in a certain way.
They don't usually have a prerequisite if you have to be this deep into the game to be ready for it.
Exactly. So it didn't matter that I was just bumbling around, and for the sake of I'm taking lots of damage whenever I do get into combat, doing more shrines made sense, because I was, like, building up more hearts. And I've gone from the one wheel and 3 hearts that you start the game with to, like, something like 14, 15 hearts and 2 full stamina wheels. So
nice.
Like, there's a lot of stuff, and I've still got a bunch of undiscovered stuff.
Yeah.
But then everywhere you go, people are like, hey, this is happening somewhere. And then there's someone reading a newspaper is like, oh, this is happening somewhere in the world. It's like,
there's so many places I haven't, like, gone to yet because I'm afraid of adding more content on the list to do.
Yeah, and then there's, like, general stuff. It's like, hey, you thought you knew the world pretty well. Cool. There's something that existed in the previous game that didn't do what it does now.
Yep.
Good luck!
Yeah. Side note about shrines, I really appreciate that you have infinite battery life for your Zonai devices in shrines.
I've had some of the most fun with Zonai devices in shrines.
Yeah, and I guess the reasoning is so that no matter what point you're at in the game, you can complete the shrine, and it's not like you don't have enough battery to do this. But it does let you, like, play around with, like, what this will be like once you have that resource powered up.
Like, because I don't have any extra battery yet.
Yeah, that is a whole resource of its own to go getting.
At the moment, it's because I went and found a way of mining resource that I need to get the other resource.
Yes.
I was like, cool, I've got tons of that resource. Now I can go and to this one place that sells that resource and buy 10 of these at a time. And if I get 100, I can have 1 extra sliver of battery.
I will note, there are other places to buy that resource.
That's the only one I know about right now.
That's fair. Don't worry, you will find others.
I hope so.
Because, I had a period of, like, buy 10, fly back to somewhere I knew had a bed, sleep, fly back.
Oh, sleeping will do it. Cool.
I slept... I don't know whether sleeping once does it. I slept twice just to be sure, so I went to, like, the beds under that first town, and then flew back to the place and bought 10 more, and just, like, did that on repeat.
I might have to try that.
Yeah. Or I suppose
it's taking ages.
I suppose you could just make a fire near where they sell them
I
and
don't
sleep
know
twice.
if that's the thing that resets it. I might have to do a bit more experimenting, but it's like, oh god, I just want more battery.
Forcing them to reset by sleeping can be done.
Okay,
it's worth playing around
I'll
with.
give that a try. Initially I was like, Blood Moons seem to be happening a lot faster. It's like, no, you've just been playing constantly for days.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there is all the plot that's going on that feels way more alive and interactive than stuff in Breath of the Wild did. But also, there is, like, a whole bunch of other plot that is elsewhere.
There is some stuff that is like how Breath of the Wild had its memories of 100 years ago. There is some stuff in that vein. But also, like, I don't mind a little bit of that when, like, the adventure I'm going on right now feels like it is actually happening, and the people around me are part of that adventure, and it's all, like, I'm not being taught... Because, like, yeah, we've said this before, Breath of the Wild, one of my biggest problems, the only characters you see Link grow and develop with are the people who've been dead 100 years, and not the ones he's hanging out with today. And this fixes a lot of that.
Yeah, and even when you are hanging around with the people of today, it's only for brief sections of time. Most of that is Link doing what Link do in all games. He's just having a little solo thing, but he never really felt like he had... Even when he bought a home, it never really felt like... Because there was no one there.
Yeah.
There wasn't really any life to it, even when you, like, bought all the furniture and started putting stuff on the walls.
But, yeah, there's a lot of things that feel like they have more life to them now.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, even little things like... A lot of buildings, like homes, used to have, like, little lean-tos on the side of them, and they were always just like, that. There is a door... There is nothing inside that.
Yeah.
If you managed to clip inside that building, there would be nothing there.
Yeah.
It is not rendered. And now most of those are just like, we've had 5 years, we've opened all those doors up. Like, it might not be anything in there, but it's like, here are some buckets and shit. You know, the kind of stuff you might find in a little out shed.
I will also say, I'm very impressed at how well this game, in its intro, has foreshadowed things. For example, I'm not usually a fan of the Metroidvania style, oops, you lost all your stuff at the start of a game thing. But I like that as you play through this, you get context for what that event was that happened at the start, and going, oh, it's that mechanic that's happened there. There is some consistency that
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. There is some consistency that's nice. Yeah. As someone that's played the intro like 3 times now, they set up a lot of things that I'm intrigued by how they've set up. Yeah, God, there is so much game in this game.
So have you got the full map open now?
I have all the map towers.
Cool.
I don't have the full underground map, not by a long fucking shot.
No.
That is a million miles away from being done.
Yeah, well, we might talk a bit more about that next week, but for now I think that we should probably keep that one on the down low.
Yeah. There's a map. I've seen very little of it.
Yes, I've sort of found missions that involve being underground, but underground is dangerous and scary.
Yes.
And dark as fuck, because there's no daylight, funnily enough.
Yeah, funny that.
And it's all very well going, well, Link can carry a torch, and Jane, you're always someone who recommends carrying a torch. I do, but if you're using a torch, you can't pull out a weapon.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of things to do, and I am fascinated by the things I am finding.
Yeah.
And I look forward to greater exploration, because the architecture and the flora and fauna are fascinating.
Yes.
But that needs more time. You almost immediately dove down there. I eventually got round and did that mission did a bit
Yeah.
down there, and then was like, okay, I've managed to get like 350 of that resource. Now to very, very slowly turn it into something else. It's like, maybe I didn't need to be on this mission this long, but
I mean,
I found a way that was going to make it much, much fucking easier for me.
yeah.
And also, because I'd gone and done like 50 odd shrines, I had 450 of the most important resource for being underground. I was like, okay. The one that you keep going, I haven't got enough of this shit. It's like,
Yeah. No, I went on a big excursion underground the other day, and I used like 250 of that resource on one very lengthy excursion.
That was a lengthy excursion.
Yeah. You've really got to be prepared before you go down there.
Oh, yes. But maybe that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I am, like, well prepared, if nothing else.
Indeed.
I'm curious. There seems to be a lot of stuff down there, and it feels like the more time you spend down there, the more manageable down there becomes.
Definitely.
But there is so much depth in this. Like, we talked about like multi-level skylands. Like, I found stuff that was like 3 separate layers of.
Yeah.
Just a sandwich of separate puzzles that you might have missed at least 2 of them.
There's so much nice verticality to everything.
Yes. It's like, oh, you think you know this area? Cool. Now some of it is in the sky. Work it out yourself. Okay.
Yeah, this game has like been absolutely full of creative ideas. Like, it has not yet slowed down feeling like it has interesting stuff to do with its tools. Side note, I finally started playing around a bit more with, like, constructing machinery.
Oh.
Now that I have, like...
Loads of batteries.
I have 3 1/3 batteries now.
Ooh, la-di-da-di.
Or it might be 3 2/3. It's somewhere between the 3rd and 4th. And I was like, I got enough battery to, like, start playing with stuff now. And I made an automated death machine, and it was
Yay!
impractical but wonderful. I know, I set it free, and it automated going to enemies and targeting them with death. And that was fun!
I like how a lot of the shrines are not just puzzles, but they're like, here is a way of using a thing that you might not have considered yet, or you might not have even found the thing.
Oh, I have a thing that's, like, very minor mechanical thing I discovered that I've been, like, assuming it would do a thing since I started the game, and I finally worked out what it would do.
Oh.
So, I fused a shield to that bird thing.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, I'm sure this'll be something, like maybe I can, like, paraglide with it
Use
without
sky
using paraglide or something. No. You can get, if you do the shield surf movement...
Yeah.
You jump higher up in the air than usual because you've got a bird under your feet.
Huh.
So if you're trying to jump up on a ledge that's too tall for you to jump on, you can have a bird on your shield and do a shield surf jump and go higher to make the jump.
That's very cool.
I'd been trying to work out. I was like, this fusion has to be something. It has to do something. I finally worked out what it did.
I'm
And, like,
excited to try more stuff like that when I find a way of expanding my inventory.
Yes.
I have 55, maybe 60 of that resource, and I have not found the NPC.
I will say this. I am genuinely fucking surprised you have not found that NPC. And at some point, I feel like if you ever want to know, I'll tell you, and you're going to go, really? That's where they are? And you're going to kick yourself.
I'm probably not. I'm going to be... Yeah, I didn't actually spend as much time there as I thought I would.
Like, I was kicking myself because I missed the quest where you can bump into them.
Oh.
I spent so long not finding them on that
Right.
quest that they buggered off to a more common place that I might stumble upon them. They've gone to the more common place and you still haven't found them. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, still hasn't happened yet. A thing I thought I understood or I had a theory about turned out I was completely wrong, and what I really should have been doing is just getting on with some more of the main mission as opposed to, or some of the main missions, because there's like 6 open at the moment, as opposed to like futzing about with what I have. But I've been most of the places in the world now, apart from Gerudo Desert.
Okay.
I've kind of avoided Gerudo Desert because it just seems more sinister.
I've not been to Gerudo Desert. I've not been to the Goron bit of
I've not really
Goron
been up
Mountain,
there either.
And I've not been to Akala down in the bottom right.
Carla's top right.
The
Tano.
no, the place in the bottom right that previously was like a fishing village.
Yeah. I've had fun down there.
Yeah,
Yes, just before we started recording, I got to the second part of what I suspect is going to be a huge fucking mission.
I might make that the next place I go. I'm curious. I've been holding.
It's interesting, and it seems like a lot is going on there.
Well, I might go
the
down.
whole world is full of. There's a lot of going on there,
right? Because here's the thing. I'm like, I want to go. I want to go check that out. But just before we started recording, I found a cave with an absolutely an unmarked, unnamed cave. That as soon as I got in there, it threw up a absolutely fucking wild name, and I'm like, is that cave name implying something pretty major? Because if so, what the fuck?
I do like that there are caves are a huge thing in this game, and we're not even talking about the underground.
Yeah, just
there are so many as you say, so much verticality in this game. Yeah. There's layers between layers, and I like that. Though the caves are kind of signposted.
Yeah.
There are sort of if you know what to look out for, it's I think there's a cave nearby.
And if you're struggling to find them, there is a mechanic for finding them.
Yeah. That's I've really enjoyed that so far, and that has made life a lot freaking easier.
Yes.
And I think I just stumbled on that. I guess fairly early on.
Yeah.
I was I think this will do a thing, maybe. Oh, that did a thing. Yeah, that did a good thing.
It's that classic Breath of the Wild style. Oh, I wonder if this will do a thing. Of course it did a thing. Yeah. This game has foreseen every possible, what about this idea I could have? And gone, yeah, we already thought of it. Here you go.
And that, just briefly going back to a thought I started earlier, was I really enjoying the fact that sometimes a shrine will... See, it seems like it's just there to go, hey, maybe you haven't tried doing something like this with the bits you found around the world yet. Let us kind of show you how it works by giving you, a prefabbed thing over here and a different prefab thing over here, and maybe you can find it better. And sometimes you'll find, flying machines on the Skylands that are more complicated than, here is bird with fan.
Yeah, this game does a really good job of, giving, not... throwing everything at you at once and just telling you how to make all of the cool things. But making sure that, it's ridiculously open-ended mechanics don't feel too overwhelming, because if you're I have choice paralysis, I don't know where to start, it will slowly go, you've seen this, oh, you've seen this, maybe those are starting ideas. It gives you drip feeds of stuff to be thinking about.
So, and, sometimes there'll be things hey, here is a dispenser, and maybe you've tried it, and it's got a bunch of this.
Yeah.
Here is a shrine. Pop in the shrine. It's here is how to use some of the things you hadn't seen yet.
Yeah.
And I have really enjoyed that about it. Sometimes it's there's a puzzle, and I can't work out what the fuck to do with it. I go in nearby shrine, it's I now understand a mechanic I didn't understand before.
Yeah.
And, I appreciate how the hint system works with regards to names of shrines.
Yes.
You've got the shrine name, and then you've got a 2 or 3 word description.
Yeah. This will give you a hint of roughly what you're trying to do.
And okay. Yeah. This one's called backwards. It's okay, I need to reverse time.
Yeah.
Got it. Do the recall thing. Cool. On it. But everywhere you go, you are probably going to be picking up more and more stuff. Depending on how adventurous you are going to find boss tier enemies.
Yep.
Just fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
I thought Lynels were terrifying in the first one.
I
met a Lynel today that was one-hitting me through scenery at a distance. And I was I don't think I'm ready for this. I'll mark this on my map and I will come back another day.
Yeah, I thought Lynels were tough before, and then across all my 3 goes through of playing through this, I have fought one of that particular enemy you've been marking on your map when you see them. I have fought one once. I had to
How
go
did
on a
that
whole,
go?
I had to go on a whole little side quest to get enough homing arrows and to get a good enough bow
Right.
and to get a really good shield. Like I went on a whole little side quest to be prepared,
Right.
and even then, the one of them I killed in in the first playthrough, like took me like an hour and a half of attempts.
Wow.
Like it was a fucking menace.
Yeah.
It was a really fun fight, but like
Yeah.
yeah, I needed to go in prepared. It was no just like, just rock up on a line, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I think I'm going to wait until I've gathered more resources to level up some more of my equipment, because I don't think I'm ready. But I do see how I could be ready, based on the things I've gathered so far. But you've found stuff I haven't even seen yet. Like, there was like an armor piece that you were wandering around in for most of your first 2 days. I was like, I don't know where you found it, it looks very cool.
I'm trying to remember what one that was now. Oh yeah, that headpiece.
No idea where you got that.
I went in a random cave and fought some stuff, and there was a chest, and there it was.
Yeah, there is so much to find and to do and to see and to talk to and to get involved in and to get involved in local affairs and to like be part of a community and to do all sorts of things. The only thing I was surprised to have found today was that there is an upper limit to the things you can fuse together.
Yeah, how many things we talking?
I got to about 19, and it was like I tried to fuse it. I was like, you know what? An extra one of those on that thing would be so helpful right now, because it's really ungainly right now. But I have a lot of a thing. I need to move to a different position, and I need to do it as quickly as possible, because I need to sit down and record a podcast soon. Yeah. And it was just like, just one more thing. It's like, no, you can't add anything more to those. Like, oh no.
Well, that number sounds about right. I feel like somewhere around 15 to 20 was the most I'd tried to fuse a thing together, just to go, how ridiculous can I make it? And I fused somewhere between 15 and 20 and was like, it hasn't stopped me yet, this game is ridiculous, and then didn't try to keep going. I mean, that is probably why you see people, like, I've seen things of people building, like, a Trojan horse, and, like, wheeling it, like, TikTok is full of people fucking about in this game, and it's brilliant, but I am trying to avoid most of it. I have seen someone just pilot a Trojan horse in, but they ultra-handed it in to the building, and I was like, why didn't you just add some propulsion? It's like, I think I get it now, because you didn't leave yourself enough stuff. That's fair. Yeah, no, my TikTok has been absolutely demolished by, like, it's one of two camps. It's either I'm going to make this spaceship from this piece of sci-fi media that I like,
or here is a dick and balls.
Yeah, here's just like a giant flaming mech man that can functionally walk, which is impressive, with a big dick and balls, and the dick breathes fire.
I saw a sort of more casual one of that, of like, the balls were like explosives, the dick was breathing fire, and then the whole fucking thing exploded, and the flaming face just came careening towards Link.
Yes.
I've seen so many ridiculous things.
I've seen so many people doing like videos where like they'll get one of like the glider birds and deliberately drop it so it's like falling from the sky island,
and then try and land on it while it's
they try and like skydive down to meet it and grab onto it and bring it back into a gliding position to free bird.
Yes, I've been enjoying the ridiculous of catching things out of the air while you're in flight.
There's a panic that sets in when the opportunity arises, but it's so cool when you pull it off.
It's not just the thing that you're talking about, but also things like, the only way I could move myself was by firing an arrow. Can I catch the arrow I fired?
Yes.
While also being propelled by the thing. Which is a fun mechanic. I was surprised for a while how many arrows I had in this game, and then I realised that like the game doesn't need to fuck up, because of the fuse mechanic. It doesn't need to fuck about with any types of arrow. You're just gonna go, I've got 200 arrows and I'm only like 16 hours into this, what the fuck?
Well, the thing is, part of it is because so many things are like situationally useful to fuse to arrows.
Yep.
And I think the game just wants you to never be in the situation of, fuck, I don't have an arrow to fuse that to.
I fear the day that might become the case.
Yeah, I've yet to, to have that come across. I've broken every wooden box I've seen, and I have, 400 arrows in my pocket, and It's great. Yeah, this game is so good.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. A stable has gone from being just a place where I pick up a recipe and find out where my DLC content's hidden to I'm probably going to be doing shit related to this stable for an hour or two, maybe more.
Yeah.
Some of this I might have to put down and come back to another day because I'll need to power up for it, but
They've done such a good job of making places I didn't care about suddenly be really cool and important.
Yeah. Or just have more to them than you previously expected. The world feels more alive, more detailed.
Yeah.
And more strange, because there's just for all the people who are oh yeah, they've just reskinned Breath of the Wild, it's there's so much more to it.
There's a lot of weirdness, a lot of fascinating things.
Areas you've never seen. There's areas you've never seen the way they are now. That one set of ruins I was wandering around earlier. Yeah. And I was it's weird being here like this.
Yeah.
Some of the places I've been less interested to go have been weird, because I remember we're in a desert, it's great fun. It's I haven't even had time. I do remember in the trailers that there was a lot of sinky whirlpool things, and I remember those from Link to the Past and the Oracles games, and they were a pain in the bum. So not wandered to there, but there is. I say I'm a fifth of the way through, but I think I'm only a numbers fifth of the way through, depending on.
A fifth of the way through some of its elements. Yeah,
But also, I feel I'm more engaged in this than I was in Breath of the Wild. There were so many side quests that I just couldn't be asked to finish.
I'm so much more interested in doing the stuff that isn't the main story.
Yes.
And that's not because the main story isn't compelling. The main story is more compelling, I think, than it was in Breath of the Wild. But just everything else is also so good.
Yeah. But also sometimes it does feel like you need to go and do a little bit of side questy stuff.
Yeah.
And then, you will eventually grind to a halt on side questy things.
Yeah.
And go, I'm going to go and do some main quest, and then that will be here's a bunch more stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been to a bunch of places and they've sort of hinted at a thing. Maybe you've sort of got an idea of a consistent thing that a bunch of people have been asking about.
Yeah.
Maybe you should look into that. Yeah. Or maybe go back to the main mission, because it might turn out that there's a mechanic that you haven't unlocked yet.
Yeah.
There's been several of those, just thinking oh, that's most of the mechanics are right. No, there's a bit more.
Yeah.
And also, shout out to that one shrine that was okay, this is going to be really hard, but we're going to give you some really cool toys. Here is a little trolley thing, little fan trolley you can drive around. Whee! But if you go over here, here's a little truck thing you can drive around. Whee! But if you go over here, here's a flying machine that you can pilot around in this N64 Star Fox all range mode area sized space, and fuck about with that. And also, if you work out how to get into this bit, there's just a death truck.
Yeah!
And, as you say, in the shrines, where you can do whatever the fuck you want, it's I don't want this to be over. I just want to stay in the infinite energy place where I can just drive my ridiculous death truck around. Firing cannons and God knows what else around. Yeah. Do other things exist?
Yeah, funnily enough, they do. I did tear myself away from Tears of the Kingdom.
You really did.
I played through half of this before Tears of the Kingdom was out, and the other half of it, my work day today was finishing this game, and I was I could have been playing Tears of the Kingdom. And this is it's gonna sound disparaging putting it like that, but this was a game I genuinely was excited for, and was
it just came at you the wrong week.
It came at me at exactly the wrong week. So this game is called Humanity, and it's out now on PS5. It might be on PS4 as well. It supports PSVR 2, I know that, so you can play it in VR, which I played maybe a third of the game in VR. This is a puzzle game from the people who did Res Infinite and Tetris Effect, to give you a sense of, like, weird artsy game types, where you play as a ghost dog, trying to get a bunch of humans to a goal by issuing objectives and putting little markers on a map that will be like, turn left here, turn right here, jump here, to try and get them safely to a goal. But the people themselves, they're not always, but are often kind of disposable in the pursuit of the sort of secret objective of these levels, which is these giant golden humanoids that are sort of tricky to get to and collectively get to
for the most part, you don't need to get them, but they will unlock extra bits.
You have to get a certain number of them to finish each chapter, so you don't need to get all of them, but you need to get a good percentage of them across a series of levels to do the final level of that section.
Yeah.
So, narratively, their importance is sort of emphasized. I don't want to get too much into the plot of this, because the plot is fucking bonkers in exactly the kind of way I expected it to be. It says how do I want to word this?
How do you want to word this?
This plot, seems like it's going to tell a very simple, basic, kind of beat you over the head a little story, and then it takes some wild metaphysical pivots. I sure had an experience. I'm gonna need a few days to process it. I finished today, and I don't know how I feel. I know I had a good time. I don't know how to understand some of what I experienced, and I kind of want to go through it again at some point, knowing where it ends and seeing its narrative build. It is an interesting game for sure. Mechanically, it is a very satisfying puzzle game. It has... I played through this in maybe 8 to 10 hours, I'm going to say, like across a couple of sittings. And...
sometimes you spent more on some levels than others.
yes, occasionally I would get to a puzzle and go, no, fuck you, I know I can do this.
I can do this perfectly.
Yes, and that one puzzle that I spent ages on was a completely optional side puzzle, but I was like, no, fuck you, I'm gonna work it out.
And it was like 2 hours. I was sat there with a pencil and paper, you were sat there actually figuring it out.
Yeah, so I think it was like 8 hours plus maybe 2 hours on that one fucking puzzle makes it up to 10. But like, this does what I really appreciate in a puzzle game, where like no one idea outstays its welcome, and it's really good at throwing like lots of new things for you to do exactly when the last thing has stopped feeling fresh and surprising.
Yeah, because it's a mixture of the basic Lemmings or Sleepwalker type thing of you have some things or something you need to take care of. Maybe you've got to push some blocks, or you've got to get them to push some blocks to make a safe path across. Yeah. Maybe you've got to build a bridge. Maybe you've got to do a thing. Maybe, like, some walls are scalable. Maybe some aren't. Maybe you have to, like, turn something into something else for a bit.
Yeah. And what I really appreciate about this is beyond just, like, having loads of ideas but never overusing any one of them, and never rushing past them either. Like, they really know how to pace it well. I really appreciate that if you're doing a puzzle and you've like set up your instructions for your basically 3D lemmings to follow, and you got right near the end and like your instructions work perfectly and something fails and you're like, oh, I just need to tweak one thing. You can restart the level with all of your currently issued instructions still in place. You can choose to restart and wipe them, but if you're like, no, this was perfect except one little change, you can just reset with everything intact, and that is such a nice quality of life thing.
Oh, yes. It would be very frustrating to try and remember where you had to put everything.
Yeah. I think this game does a really good job of justifying some of its more surprising mechanical additions in the context of narrative.
Yeah.
Like, it uses, here is an unexpected new thing you can do as a way to sell a story beat really well. Like, it's one of the better puzzle games I've played in a while in terms of, like, feeling like you're going on a narrative adventure while you're doing a puzzle game. It's really neat. The VR works really nice on it. It is really good to be able to just, like, look around in 3D space and just, like, keep darting about with what you're doing. My favourite thing about this game, and the thing that I keep thinking about over and over, beyond the really good puzzles and whatever the fuck the story was, is how many characters are moving around independently on screen and how good a use of that this game makes in terms of... It's one of the things I've always said about, like, more powerful gaming hardware is that we don't need to be always pushing higher fidelity resolution for the 1 or 2 characters in a room. You can have a void full of low poly people, but there's like 1,000 of them over here and 1,000 of them doing this, and these ones are doing that,
and a constant stream of them falling out of the sky over there.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, they're clashing, and when they clash, these things happen, and these physics interactions are happening.
Yeah, that like the sort of stuff you used to get in like the stuff that was made for like Lord of the Rings. Like, we need to make armies happen at each other.
Yeah.
Like Rome Total War, I think, was one of the first ones to do, like, big armies.
And I think that's what sets this up, or like why I would say this isn't just, say, 3D Lemmings.
Yeah.
Because the addition of having such large swaths of people not only has interesting narrative implications, but it also really helps to give you some fascinatingly unique puzzles that only work because you are just throwing people at a problem. And some of the later puzzles where you have large environments with lots of groups of people interacting in different spaces in the level, and you're trying to micromanage their interactions, are the kind of thing that feels like it really is making use of the hardware it's on. Humanity is really interesting. It is a fascinating little puzzle game, and it takes a pretty good game to pull me away from Tears of the Kingdom right now. And the fact that I was like, yeah, I will make the effort to finish this today rather than go, yeah, I've seen enough of this to talk about it.
Yeah.
Which I probably could have done after that first play session. I was like, no, I'm gonna finish it. And that is a testament to that game.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't blame anyone who waited till they finished Tears of the Kingdom to pick it up, but, like, its release timing is rough for it. But the game is good. Maybe go give it, if it sounds interesting, maybe purchase it and have it there ready to play when,
just so you remember.
Yeah, just so you remember. Because Humanity, pretty interesting game. Is that everything we've played this week?
I played a bit more of The Room 3.
You did? I was watching on stream.
Yeah, so, in fact, it was you who got me out of the stuck.
Yay.
So, I think we talked at the end of last week? Maybe. Or we talked at some point last week, I think, about the fact that I'd played The Room 3, I had got an ending. It wasn't a great ending, but I had got an ending. It was like, cool, I have finished the game, and the game ends and it's like, there's 3 other endings. So I was like, okay, well this stream, they're just the other endings. I don't have to play through the whole thing again. And I think I know roughly where some bits of this puzzle are, and roughly how they work. I can understand this. So I downloaded The Room 4 ready to go. Assuming that this was going to be like 20 minutes out, done.
Yeah.
I was like an hour in, just frustratedly wandering around in circles going, there must be something I've missed, like futzing about with various bits of the puzzle. Because I had so many bits of the puzzle.
You did, yeah.
And the one thing I was missing is like, oh yeah, there's a tray that you're supposed to put things in. But what if there was something in it already that wasn't meant to be there that you need to pick up? And I was like, that's kind of bullshit, but there we go.
We got there in the end.
So we did, we got another ending, and that ending is kind of weird, because stuff about it implies that you have already done the things you need to get to another ending when you haven't. Narratively, it seems like things are changing that aren't. But eventually you will get a device that will allow you to get an second ending.
Yes.
And I pondered on that, how much time I wanted to spend trying to find the final ending. Because again, I feel like I know what it involves. I feel like I have had bits of it, but I don't have enough of it to finish it. And you know what? I had a little look online about at least how do I get to the next bit. What is the one thing that I am missing
Yeah.
Because, like, I had already been around that mansion, or around that one play area a lot to get to the point I was at the start of that stream. To then go, like, I did an hour, found the one thing I was missing, and then from there was pretty much straight going. It was just like, this thing is kind of bullshit to find. How bullshit is the final thing to find? Pretty bullshit. It is a thing that I have interacted with several times, that I interacted with it in the way it has always interacted throughout the rest of the game. But it is almost imperceptible when you do so.
Yeah.
It is starting to make a change. You have to do it a lot, and you have to do it on a thing that is giving you no feedback whatsoever that you are doing the right thing. And that can fuck off. I'm pretty sure I know I can work out what to do once I have done this thing, and I might do it on stream this week, but yeah, that was kind of bullshit. But I suppose at that point I had already finished it. It was just glazing the donut at that point. But anyway, Room 3, good puzzles, interesting plot. Some of it can be a little bit bullshit, but not until after you've already finished it at least once. Unless you want to somehow try and get the best ending first time. But yeah, that felt a bit poop. What about you? Have you played anything else?
That's it. I tore myself away from Tears of the Kingdom to play one other thing and nothing else.
Well then.
Time for this. Okay. Oh, Jane, I found another mechanic in Tears of the Kingdom that the game doesn't...
Another one?
Yeah, that the game doesn't... Yeah, but this is one that the game doesn't tell you about, but, like, it seems like it's going to be really useful.
Right.
So you know how, like, you can only fuse two things together? So, like, you know, put a barrel on a sword or something, and you can't fuse anything.
Oh, you're talking about, like, weapons and
Yeah, weapon
stuff.
fusing,
Right.
yeah. You can only put two things together.
Yes.
There's a way you can put more than two together, but it's weird.
Right.
I don't ask me how I worked this out. The game does not tell you about this.
Is this my uncle works at Nintendo?
No.
Okay.
Look, this is definitely legit. It's about as legitimate as...
Is it my aunt works at Nintendo of America?
It's something like that.
Oh.
So, here's what you do. You drop down the weapons you want to fuse together on the floor in front of an Octorok, but you also drop down, like, 99 blue choo-choo jellies.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot, but, like, then the Octorok, like, sucks all of that up, and then, like, that does a little animation, then spits it out, and now the extra thing is fused onto the end of the weapon, and it's fused on using choo-choo jelly.
And you've done this, have you?
I mean... I've been told that it works, and it makes about as much sense as how weapon repair works. The problem is I can't drop all 99 choo-choo jelly quick enough before, like, it starts sucking stuff up.
And I would imagine some of it just starts despawning anyway.
Exactly, so, like, I'm just trying to, like, do it faster, because, like, having a sword with a sword on the end of it with a sword on the end of it would be really cool.
As someone who lived through the era of... turn around in a circle 3 times, jump forward, jump back, switch through your inventory, and do a forward cartwheel.
Look, I lived through that...
Don't believe any of this.
I lived through that era too, and I wouldn't believe it too, but I did repair a shield today by letting an Octorok eat it, so anything seems real now.
Oh, nom nom, tasty shield.
Are you a poor 25 to 45-year-old?
Yeah!
Do you have any illusions that you'll actually get to retire?
Oh, God, no.
Then why not unlock some of your retirement early? You've heard of those options to unlock some of the value in your house? Well, we all know that you can't afford property, so why not just unlock some of the time? That's right, you can move some of the time around from the end of your life to now. Why not catch up on that new game you're really into? Catch up on some sleep? Or even overthrow capitalism? The possibilities are some.
So, what? What have you watched? What have you put in your eyes that wasn't Zelda?
I mean, there's not much.
No.
We put on seasons 3 and 4 of Star Wars Clone Wars.
I think that is correct.
While playing Tears of the Kingdom. We just playing on our handhelds.
We were like, we've had enough of this. Okay, it's been an hour. Do you want to put some long-form media on the TV? Cool. Okay. It's your turn. Have you got anything in your list? No, I don't have anything else. Should we just put that thing we've had in the back back end for like ages on.
The problem we had is that all of the regular people we watch on YouTube were just uploading a lot of Zelda content, and we were like, yeah, but that's gonna be like, what if you're gonna show a thing we haven't seen? So like, let's dodge that.
Well, also
for
a
minute.
lot just weren't putting anything up. I assume because they were playing Disney.
I mean, that's the other camp. But yes, so we'd watched seasons 1 and 2 of Star Wars Clone Wars in the past.
Couldn't tell you much about it, to be honest. Didn't sink in much.
Yeah, because here's the thing about seasons 1 and 2 of Clone Wars. They are lots of self-contained stories where you don't get to see half of the story actually happen. Like, seasons 1 and 2 have this real frustrating structure
We want to do in media res,
Yeah.
and we're going to do that by going, you know how Star Wars has the crawl at the beginning? We're going to do that like it's a news report from across the galaxy,
Yeah,
and then
but,
just
like,
drop you into plot that has to be wrapped
Yeah.
up in 15 minutes.
I'm gonna make up, like, an example of one to try and give you a sense of the tone. It'll be like, Anakin Skywalker was off on this planet helping with trade negotiations, but then the Senate got blown up and they had to come over here and we had to go rescue some refugees. We joined the adventure with Anakin doing this. Like, you feel like you've missed half of the story by
Yeah.
the time that you jump in, and none of the stories really connect to each other. It's...
Not in
Yeah.
any satisfying degree.
It feels like they want to be telling 40-minute stories but only have 20 minutes, so they just tell you what the first 20 minutes were.
Or it just feels like they felt they could just get away with Star Wars. Wow!
Yeah, it's a weird vibe. And, like, it wasn't bad, but it was...
I think they were trying their best with it, but, like, that time limit did not give
Yeah.
them much, especially since it seemed like they wanted to do... A person can tune into this and not feel
Yes.
like they've missed anything ever.
They were terrified of serialization,
Yeah.
but also did not feel confident in their ability to tell a complete story in the time limit they had.
Yeah.
And that creates a weird vibe. Seasons 3 and 4, considerably more interesting. I think. They were...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. They've gotten a lot less afraid of doing serialized arcs, where you'll have like a 4 or 5 episode arc about a thing.
Or about just a couple of characters having an experience.
Not every single story has to be Ahsoka and Anakin.
Nope.
You can have little arcs about like...
That's considerably less Obi-Wan in later seasons.
It's nice having like, oh, here's like a 5 episode arc about like this pair of villains and what their whole thing is that like the main cast is nothing to do with.
Here's just a group of droids.
Yeah,
For a while.
Here's a little goofy side story about this group of droids. It also like stepped up in
We're going to talk about slavery.
Yeah, it steps up in intensity a lot.
It doesn't shy away from tackling like much more mature topics.
I think the moment I realised like it had definitely crossed a threshold was, I think it was in season 3, where there is a slave who is threatened with re-education and literally throws herself out a window to her death quite gruesomely, like hitting the floor, and like her body's in quite a shape
Yeah.
to avoid re-education in the slave labor camps. Like,
I don't think season 1 would have managed that.
Season 1 and 2 would never.
No.
But like, they also have been a lot less afraid of like telling stories that feel like they are connected to the rest of the Star Wars universe. Like, stories about other characters either prior to this or that will come up later that are relevant, and like it's doing its own world building.
Yeah,
which
we're
I've
starting to
appreciated.
understand some of the backstory from Solo that I didn't care about.
It is. People talk about Clone Wars being a good, like, it gets better as a show. Start of season 3 is really where that happens, I think.
Yeah, and I weirdly, of all the shows that I think we've ever said that about, Clone Wars feels like the one that you could just jump in at season 3 and you wouldn't feel like you've missed anything.
1000%. All you need to know, Anakin's a Jedi, Obi-Wan's in charge, Anakin's apprentice is Ahsoka,
Ta-da.
Jar Jar Binks is on the Senate.
Yep.
I literally think that might be it.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to know
And
that...
if you've seen Revenge of the Sith, you probably know all of that
Palpatine
anyway.
has a cool assassin that works for him.
Several.
Yeah. that might be
you
about
you
it.
might struggle to understand where Asajj Ventress turns up, but
Yeah, like
it's kind of talked about in the episodes anyway.
There's one or two characters you might go, okay, what episode do you show up in? I'll go back and watch that episode, but like, yeah.
And Commander Cody. I think he might be mentioned in one of the
Maybe,
prequels.
who the fuck knows?
But like, yeah.
Season 3 and 4 have been considerably better watching.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like there is more to it. I thought we had all of it, but I feel like people have told me like a bunch of stuff that happens on Mandalore that we definitely did not see.
I mean, unless it's one of those things where like it technically changes to a slightly different name partway through. Like, is it changes from Clone Wars to The Clone Wars?
I think it might be feature-length episodes.
Yeah.
We might be missing like a movie that finished it or something.
Where we got to definitely felt like if they were going to end it there, I understand ending it there.
Yeah.
It ended on a season close kind of cliffhanger.
Yeah, I feel like I have been told certain things about where this gets to, because people have said like, oh, you watch this media, did you watch Clone Wars? Because like a lot of why that happens in this show is because of stuff that happens in Clone Wars. It's like, oh no, I have to watch that one.
At some point, we'll do the Googling required to find out what it is we're missing.
I'll ask Beth. I know. Beth was the one that was like, you need to see this. Beth was like, cool. I trust you. I'll ask Beth. Did you watch anything else?
The only other thing I watched one YouTube video, but I might have watched others. This was the one I remember watching because I watched it while I was finishing work today. The video is called A History of Disney World Urban Exploring, and I'm just finding the name of the YouTube channel because I did not make a note of it in my notes. It was George Browning, and this is a 35-minute video about the history of people doing urban exploring within Disneyland parks, and its sort of origins from, like, some late 80s, early 90s, people, like, sneaking in and camping out inside of rides overnight that were mid-being built, through to the, like, modern-day vlogger, YouTuber oversaturation where Disney, like, very harshly clamped down, and some of the, like, just weird intricacies along the way in between. It was an interesting watch. It's always interesting to get an insight into the journeys of people going places they're not supposed to be and documenting what they find there. One thing I didn't know, I knew there were photos from one of the more notorious examples of, like, going places people aren't meant to in Disney is there previously was an island that was an animal sanctuary that just got abandoned. That is a whole thing, and there were photos of it from people who, like, swam out in the middle of the night with, like, waterproof bags to keep their cameras in and took, like, photos. No one had ever taken video around it, and apparently, like, fairly recently someone went and took, like, HD video and spent, like, 2 full days just living on this little island documenting the remains of what was once a Disney park.
Right.
It was an interesting little journey.
Yeah.
What about you? You watched anything else this week?
It's not been a big watch, and one of the things I watched I want to talk about and listened because it was a music video.
Okay.
Well then.
Time for this.
Laura.
What?
We've got a new sponsor.
Tell me about our new sponsor.
Well, do you play video game?
I do play video game.
Do you sometimes go, but 5 more minutes?
I do sometimes go, but 5 more minutes.
And then the sun is coming up?
Yeah.
Well, what if there was a way of reminding you to go to bed?
I mean, I don't want it, but I feel like I need it.
What if there was a product that would give you a little alarm every 5 minutes? There's your 5 more minutes. You wanted 5 more minutes.
Okay, well, I'll just hit snooze and have 5 more minutes.
Yeah. Well, now it's going to be louder. It's going to be a slightly less little alarm.
Oh no.
It's going to be just a little bit bigger.
A little bit more shrill.
A little bit more shrill.
Yeah.
A little bit more vibrating in a bad way.
A little bit more sensory nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
For the video game's really good, though. Ugh.
Well, 5 more minutes is going to get worse.
Oh,
How
no.
many of these do you think you can handle?
Okay, fine, I'll go to bed.
There you go.
Oh.
It's Bill Ray. This is the game off reminder.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS 261 and you can get 10% off your device alarm thing. It's like a whole weird thing that just like plugs into the power and then
Registers
has its own separate power, and then you just type the time you want the alarm to happen, and then the number of decibels before you are going to have a local noise complaint, and then it doubles those and sets that as the maximum.
Oh no.
It's probably fine.
Okay, fine.
Just one more shrine. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, finally got some good news for us.
Nice.
I mean, look, it's on the backdrop of bad news having happened, but it's good news for now. So you know how those UK regulators try to stop us doing that big studio acquisition recently?
Yeah, wasn't happy about that.
No.
I assumed that they're just closed for business.
Yeah, exactly. So we've been trying to make sure that, like, you know, all the other big ones do approve us so that we can,
Yeah.
you know, put pressure on the UK and go, you're the only ones holding back. What's wrong with you?
I mean, they're barely a country. It doesn't matter, right?
Right. So one of the ones that, like, I was pretty sure were going to tell us we couldn't do it was the EU. The EU approved us.
Nice.
I should have told you this earlier. I've been working on a little strategy, and it seems like it's worked out.
Right.
You may have noticed there's a few fewer interns in the office at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
I assume they were just, sleeping in a cupboard or
or
something.
cowering in fear or whatever.
Oh, but I like to kind of see that when that's happening.
Right.
Big fan.
So I sent some of the interns to, there's no better way to put this. I sent them to break into the regulators' homes while they slept.
Right.
And just whisper into their ears, approve the acquisition.
Right.
Approve the acquisition. And like,
And we have interns that speak French and
I mean, we gave them like
German
little
and-
Google Translate cue cards that, like, you know,
Right.
said what to say. Only like 3 of them got arrested, and the deal got approved, so I guess it worked.
yeah, and we're not going to pay bail for them, right?
Well, exactly. We will deny all knowledge. The legal folks will be on top of it.
You are a fucking genius.
I know.
So, Laura,
Yeah?
what have you put in your ears?
You're gonna have to carry this segment because all I've listened to is the Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh,
Tears of the Kingdom, Tears of the Kingdom.
that's good.
I've listened to nothing.
I like the new armor upgrade sound. It's basically the same as the old one. There's a little flourish at the end I really like.
Yeah. I like the music that plays when Hestu upgrades your infantry size. Look, you could find Hestu any
I
moment.
can't find Hester any moment.
When you're ready, let me
Ding
know. I will
me.
point you at Hestu.
I'll find Hester in my own time.
Okay, you find Hestu in your own time.
Rude.
I love you.
I love you too, being rude and mean.
I wasn't joking. It's good.
Have you seen / heard Tenacious D's new song?
Oh, the video games one.
Video games.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard the whole thing, but I heard about probably like half of it.
Have you seen the music video?
Yes, it's fascinating. I have it saved in a tab upstairs to properly watch. I saw like half of it on TikTok.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's not very long. It's like a minute long.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is credits, so you can get through it pretty quickly. It's beautifully animated. It's very silly, and despite what Jack Black says, I think Jack Black might play video games.
No, he doesn't play video games. He just he does work. He does important adult jobs that are not video games. There's video games, and then there's Red Dead Redemption.
Sure.
It was a good, amusing watch and listen.
Yes. I think that's everything I listen to.
Yeah, it's a real short one for
Yeah.
listens. We've just been putting Tears of the Kingdom in ourselves.
Next week isn't going to be much better, I'll be honest.
No, look, it's going to be a while. We're going to be living in this particular rabbit hole.
The episodes probably get shorter, though.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's everything then. Well then,
Time for this.
Are you into playing the latest new video game?
Yeah.
Do you wish there was a way that you could move about a bit while you were playing the video game? Because, all of your bits are seizing up from not having moved and sat on the sofa for what you thought was just 2 days, but it turns out it was 6 days?
I guess, yeah.
Try Switchercise! Switchercise includes weighted Joy-Con grips. Now you can feel like you're doing weights. But that's not all. Don't worry if you've got your controller in sort of handheld mode. Now it comes in a little strap around your neck with a built-in lithium polymer battery that sits around the back of your neck to balance the weight out. The strap sits right in front of your face where it would be if you were holding it in your hands. Meanwhile, you can wiggle your Joy-Cons like you're doing weights.
I mean, I could, or I could just keep lying here playing it.
I mean, you can absolutely do that. I'm doing this because my body hurts when I do that for too long. Switchercise! It's optional. Meow. Do you have warm spots?
Meow.
Do you have a warm spot that there was a human and then there was not a human and you were like, well, I will have these worms are mine now. Well, what if the human comes back and is like, you're in my seat? That's not your seat. You were there. That was your seat. You may be entitled to compensation and dreamies. Join our class action lawsuit. We are looking for more kitty friends to sue the humans to get more treats because they keep taking back the worms that we rightfully sat on. I'm here to work for Mew.
do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social Justice Warriors.
Social Justice Warriors.
Yeah.
Right, Larry.
Alright, Barry, how you doing?
Oh, I've been finding myself a bit more gravelly recently. I'm, given that I've recently lost my voice twice, I'm starting to get a bit concerned. You been all right?
Yeah, been alright. Just watching the continued stuff going on with that writers' strike over in the US.
Oh, yeah, how are they doing?
The writers are doing a real good job of striking and, not crossing the picket line, and some good solidarity from other unions.
Excellent.
Good progress being
I've been
made
seeing,
there.
lots of publicity of actors showing up on the picket, but,
Yeah.
who knows how long they're staying there after that photo's been taken.
Yeah, well, the latest development that's a bit grumbly is a lot of studios have started talking about the fact that, oh, no, we don't need to worry about this writer's strike. We'll just use AI to finish writing those scripts that those writers won't write themselves.
Right.
And, understandably, writers are not happy about the prospect of a, basically, guess the next word machine being used to try and finish writing, narratives that they care deeply about, having created and whatnot.
I am almost tempted to say, let one of them do it. Let one of the really big ones do it with a massive property and just watch how massively it fucks up.
I've been having a similar thought there, and I'm like, the one that jumps to mind that I know is currently on hold because of the writer's strike is the final season of Stranger Things.
Oh my.
That's the kind of thing
because they're the writers and the producers and the directors, aren't they?
Yeah. Now that's the kind of one where if Netflix were to turn around and try and AI complete that and it completely shat the bed, it would be bad for people who enjoy that show. Great for proving a point about the importance of writers.
Yeah. But how have they so short-sighted that they learned nothing from the last round of writer strikes?
Yeah, you only have to look at something like Heroes. Great example of a show that was on top of the world, poised to be the next big thing. Season 2 absolutely shat the bed because the writer's strike, and because, these executives decided to try and force it through rather than, just pay their writers a proper wage.
Yeah, and when we're hearing about all sorts of things of big shows where they would have previously had the writer on set, so if anything felt like it needed, changing at the last minute, that they could do that. I know Rings of Power is one of those. Yeah. They're just like, oh, we'll just keep going without the writers on set. We'll just have to go with what we've got. It's like, and you know, all these opportunities where they're spending, you know, millions on budgeting and, you know, all these huge, amazing locations and like graphic stuff for effects and entire scenes and sets, and they're just fucking about with it because they cannot bring themselves to let even a little grip of some of the money go.
Yeah. So, you know, not much actionable to suggest on this other than just, like, be aware that this is happening and be vocal. Like, be talking about the fact it's happening and that you don't want to see studios, you know, rather than properly pay striking workers, just try and get an autocomplete machine to ad-lib the rest of your story.
Yeah. Because I think most people, you know, given the chance, would rather wait until an amicable resolution has been come to, rather than going, oh yeah, well, I want it anyway. I don't care. Will you make it happen? You said there would be a new series of this year. I want more now, please, more now.
Yeah.
The general selfishness of consumer culture, and I hope that there isn't too much of that, and a decent number of people will be on the side that is saying that the writers do need respect and credit and fair payment for their work.
Indeed.
How's the hug, mate?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good hug, mate, good hug. Right, I think I'm going to go for a little nap.
Oh, sounds perfect.
Nice.
So, Laura,
Yes?
what do you do when you're not playing Tears of the Kingdom and also not doing this podcast?
I do other stuff on the internet, which can be found at Laura K. Buzz in most of the places. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills. The main thing is June 9th, that's coming up real soon. 4 p.m. UK, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, the Accessibility Summer Showcase is going to be taking place. That's in like 3.5 weeks. Come find out about a bunch of video games that are really cool video games, but also have a bunch of cool accessibility stuff going on, and hear from a bunch of cool accessibility consultants and disabled gamers, and just come enjoy a thing during basically E3 Summer Games Fest week. This is the thing I'm making. Come give it a watch.
Yeah.
What about you? What about you on the internet?
Linktur.ee/Janiac. But you can find the things I've written, the music I've made, the t-shirts I've designed, all the stuff I do. The most important one is patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me justify all the times I have to tear myself away from Tears of the Kingdom.
Right.
Including making and editing this podcast. But yeah, join the lovely people. Become Patreon number 30. That would be lovely. Help me get to that glorious 50 by the end of the year. I would super appreciate that. I think that's everything, Laura. Let me sing us out, please, darling.
Until next time, be a stranger.